Emilia stood frozen in the hallway, her heart thundering in her chest. She had only come home early from work to rest, but now she was listening to the one conversation that could shatter her marriage. From the living room, her mother-in-law's voice cut through the silence. "I can't stand her. I hate everything about Emilia, and I will never let her be happy in this house." Emilia covered her mouth to stop a gasp from escaping. Why would the woman who smiled at her during breakfast be saying these words behind her back? Emilia was the kind of woman who believed in family first. When she married Daniel 2 years ago, she vowed to treat his family as her own. She moved into Daniel's childhood home with hope in her heart, believing she could build a life filled with love and unity. But from day one, nothing she did was ever enough. Emilia cooked Margaret's favorite meals, cleaned tirelessly, and always tried to be respectful. Yet Margaret, Daniel's mother, seemed to find fault in everything. "This soup is too salty. You're too busy at work, you're neglecting your husband. A proper wife would have done this better." The words stung, but Emilia brushed them aside. She believed patience would heal the tension. She told herself, "Margaret just needs time to accept me. One day she'll see how much I care." She was wrong. That afternoon, as she stood quietly in the hallway, Emilia realized the problem wasn't just dislike. It was something darker. Margaret's voice was sharp, filled with venom as she spoke to her sister on the phone. "Emilia is prettier than I ever was. She's more successful than Daniel, and it kills me. Every time I see her, I see everything I failed at in life. I will never let her forget it." Emilia's knees weakened. This wasn't just casual bitterness. This was envy, and envy could destroy everything. Emilia stepped back, tears burning her eyes. She wanted to confront Margaret immediately, but one thought stopped her. Daniel. Her husband adored his mother. He never believed she could do any wrong. If Emilia told him what she heard, Margaret would twist the story and make her look like the problem. Now Emilia was trapped, living under the same roof with a woman who hated her, and no one to turn to. How long could she survive this silent war before it tore her marriage apart? Emilia couldn't sleep that night. She lay awake beside Daniel, staring at the ceiling, replaying Margaret's words over and over again in her mind. The venom in her voice, the certainty of her hatred, it all left a bitter taste in her mouth. She wanted to wake Daniel, to tell him everything, but she knew how it would go. He would defend his mother, call it a misunderstanding, and Margaret would twist the story to make Emilia look like the villain. She couldn't risk it. The next morning, she forced herself to smile as she served breakfast. Margaret was at the dining table, sipping tea as though nothing had happened. She looked up at Emilia with that same practiced sweetness. "Good morning, dear. You're up early," she said. Emilia's stomach churned. "Morning," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She could feel Margaret's eyes on her as she moved around the kitchen. Every clink of a plate, every rustle of cutlery felt amplified. She hated how tense she felt, how trapped she was under the same roof with this woman who wanted her life to unravel. As Daniel got ready for work, Margaret began to speak casually about Emilia's work schedule. "You know, Daniel," she said, "Emilia is always so busy, maybe too busy. A wife should spend more time at home with her husband." Emilia bit her tongue. She wanted to defend herself, but she knew arguing would only prove Margaret's point. Daniel glanced at her, and she could already see the seed of doubt planting itself in his mind. "She's just doing her job, Mum," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Margaret smiled knowingly and sipped her tea. Over the next few days, the silent war in the house grew louder. Little things started going wrong. Emilia's favorite scarf vanished from the wardrobe. Her phone charger disappeared, only to be found days later tucked behind the couch. Margaret would walk into a room, sigh heavily, and mutter under her breath about how things aren't like they used to be. One afternoon, Emilia returned home to find Margaret entertaining 2 of her friends in the living room. As Emilia greeted them, Margaret made a show of rolling her eyes. "She's polite when Daniel's around," she told her friends, loud enough for Emilia to hear. "But you don't see how she really behaves, always with that cold attitude." Emilia's cheeks burned. She wanted to scream, but she forced herself to stay calm. She greeted the women again and left the room, her heart pounding. She could hear the whispers behind her as she walked away. That night she tried to talk to Daniel. "I feel like your mother doesn't like me," she said carefully. "She keeps making comments. I don't know what to do." Daniel sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Emilia, you're reading too much into things. Mum has a sharp tongue, but she loves you. She wouldn't hurt you." Emilia wanted to shake him. "Daniel, you don't hear the things she says when you're not around," she pressed. "I feel like she's trying to turn you against me." Daniel's voice hardened. "Stop it, Emilia. You're making it sound like Mum is some kind of monster. She's been through a lot. She just wants the best for me. Please don't start this." Emilia's throat tightened as tears filled her eyes. He didn't believe her. Worse, he thought she was the problem. The days blurred into weeks, and Margaret's tactics became bolder. Emilia came home early from work one afternoon to find her mother-in-law rummaging through her drawers. "What are you doing?" Emilia demanded. Margaret didn't even flinch. "Looking for something I misplaced," she said smoothly. "You really should organize better. It's such a mess in here." Emilia clenched her fists, swallowing the anger rising in her chest. She wanted to shout, to call Margaret out for her lies, but she knew it would backfire. Margaret would twist it and tell Daniel that Emilia was disrespectful. The next blow came a week later. Emilia's boss called her into the office. "We received a concerning call about you," he said. "Someone claimed you've been neglecting your duties and causing trouble in the office." Emilia's mouth fell open. "That's not true," she said quickly. "Who would even say that?" Her boss gave her a sympathetic look. "The caller didn't leave a name, but be careful. It could hurt your position here." Emilia walked out of the office shaking. She knew who it was. She didn't even need proof. Margaret had finally crossed a line. That evening, she confronted Daniel again. "Your mother is trying to ruin my life," she said, her voice trembling. "She called my boss and lied about me. She's sabotaging me, Daniel. Please open your eyes." Daniel looked at her like she was losing her mind. "Do you even hear yourself? Mum would never do that. Why are you blaming her for everything?" "Because it's true," Emilia cried. "She hates me, Daniel. She admitted it." "That's enough," Daniel's voice boomed through the house. "I won't let you speak about Mum like this. You're making me choose between you and her. And I can't do that." Emilia felt like the floor had been ripped out from under her. She turned away, tears streaming down her face. She had never felt so alone. Margaret stood in the hallway, hidden from Daniel's view, a smug smile curling at the corners of her lips. She had won again. That night, Daniel slept in the guest room. He said he needed space, but Emilia knew the truth. Margaret's poison had seeped deep into their marriage, and she didn't know how to fix it. The next morning, as Emilia stepped out of her room, she heard Margaret on the phone again. This time, the words chilled her to the bone. "Don't worry," Margaret said to whoever was on the line. "I'll make sure Daniel leaves her. She doesn't belong here. I have someone better in mind for him." Emilia's hand tightened around the banister. Someone better. Was Margaret trying to set Daniel up with another woman? Her heart pounded as the conversation ended. She couldn't pretend anymore. Margaret wasn't just trying to make her life miserable. She was trying to destroy her marriage completely. Emilia knew she had to act, but how? If she confronted Margaret now, it would only drive Daniel further away. If she stayed silent, Margaret would succeed. For the first time, Emilia felt the weight of the battle she was fighting alone. The walls of the house seemed to close in around her, every corner filled with Margaret's shadow. She had to make a choice, and fast. But whatever choice she made could change her life forever. Emilia woke up the next morning feeling drained, her body heavy as though she had been running in her sleep. Daniel barely looked at her as he left for work, and she could still feel the sting of his words from the night before. She sat on the edge of the bed for what felt like hours, her hands trembling, replaying the phone conversation she'd overheard. Margaret had someone in mind for Daniel, someone better than her. Emilia's heart ached, but there was something else simmering beneath the pain. Anger. She could no longer pretend that Margaret was simply a difficult mother-in-law. This was a calculated attack, and Emilia was the enemy. She decided she couldn't stay silent any longer. She would confront Margaret directly. Emilia found her in the garden, tending to the flowers she doted on as if they were her children. Margaret didn't even glance up as Emilia approached, her fingers digging into the soil. "What do you want?" she asked casually, as though Emilia was just another inconvenience. Emilia's voice shook, but she stood her ground. "I know what you're doing, Margaret. I know you're trying to destroy my marriage." Margaret's hands stilled. Slowly she looked up, her lips curling into a smile so cold it made Emilia's skin crawl. "Destroy your marriage? My dear, you're doing a fine job of that yourself." Emilia clenched her fists. "I heard you on the phone. You're trying to set Daniel up with someone else. Do you have any idea how cruel that is?" Margaret rose to her feet, brushing the dirt from her hands. "You think I'm cruel? You walked into this house and stole my son. Everything was perfect before you came. Daniel was happy, he trusted me, and now—" Her voice hardened. "Now he spends all his time defending you." Emilia's breath hitched. "That's not true. I've tried everything to get along with you. I've shown you nothing but respect. Why do you hate me so much?" Margaret stepped closer, her eyes glittering with malice. "Because you're everything I'm not. Beautiful, confident, successful. You make me look like a failure in my own son's eyes. And I won't let you take him away from me. If I have to break you to keep him, I will." Emilia stumbled back, the venom in Margaret's voice cutting deep. She wanted to scream, to tell Daniel everything, but she could already hear the disbelief in his voice. He would side with his mother again, and Emilia would be left more alone than ever. That evening, Daniel came home to find Margaret in tears at the dining table. She clutched his hand, her voice trembling as she told him a story about Emilia disrespecting her, about Emilia threatening her in the garden. Daniel's eyes darkened as he turned to his wife. "Emilia, is this true?" he asked, his voice low. Emilia's chest tightened. "No, Daniel. She's lying." Margaret flinched dramatically. "I can't believe you'd call me a liar," she whispered, clutching her chest. "After everything I've done for you." Daniel's jaw clenched. "Emilia, why are you doing this? Why are you trying to start a war in this house?" Emilia's heart shattered. She reached for him, but he stepped back. "I can't keep living like this," he said. "We're sleeping in separate rooms until you can figure out how to treat Mum with respect." Emilia stood frozen as he walked away, Margaret smirking behind his back. The next day, Emilia knew she had to take matters into her own hands. She started watching Margaret carefully, noting every cruel whisper, every manipulative act. She tried to record conversations on her phone, but Margaret was always one step ahead, careful never to say anything incriminating when she suspected Emilia was listening. Then, one evening, Emilia returned from the store earlier than planned. As she entered the house, she froze at the sound of Margaret's voice in the living room. "Oh, Daniel, you look so handsome," Margaret cooed. Emilia peered into the room and felt her blood run cold. Margaret was sitting with a young woman Emilia had never seen before, a beautiful woman who looked at Daniel with adoration. "This is Claire," Margaret said proudly. "She's the daughter of an old friend of mine. She's such a sweet girl, and she's single." Daniel looked uncomfortable. "Mum, what is this?" Margaret laughed lightly, touching his shoulder. "Just two people getting to know each other. You deserve someone who understands you, Daniel. Someone who can make you happy." Emilia stepped into the room then, her voice shaking with rage. "What is going on here?" Margaret didn't even flinch. She turned to Emilia with a calm, almost mocking expression. "Oh, Emilia, don't be so dramatic. Claire and I were just having a friendly chat with Daniel, nothing more." Claire stood awkwardly, mumbling an excuse and leaving the room. Daniel turned to Emilia, his face a mask of frustration. "Emilia, please, not now." Emilia's hands trembled. "Daniel, can't you see what she's doing? She's trying to replace me." Margaret laughed softly, the sound chilling. "Replace you? My dear, you've already done that yourself. Daniel deserves better." Emilia's eyes burned with tears. She stepped closer, her voice low but firm. "If you think I'm going to let you destroy my marriage, you're wrong. I'm not afraid of you anymore, Margaret. I will fight back. Margaret's expression hardened. "Then you'd better be ready to lose, Emilia, because I don't lose." Emilia knew then that she was at a breaking point. Margaret wasn't going to stop, not unless Emilia stopped her first. That night, Emilia sat alone in her room, her mind racing. She couldn't go on like this. She needed proof, something undeniable that Daniel couldn't ignore. She picked up her phone and began planning. She would record every conversation, every threat, every act of sabotage. Margaret had been careful before, but Emilia would be even more careful. She would catch her in the act, and when she did, Daniel would have no choice but to see the truth. As Emilia lay awake, she thought about the stakes. If she failed, she might lose her marriage forever, but if she succeeded, she would finally be free. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "This ends now." Emilia knew this was it, the moment she had been preparing for. After weeks of watching, waiting, and quietly recording every whisper and threat, she finally had enough proof. Every lie Margaret told Daniel, every cruel word, every act of sabotage, it was all on her phone. There would be no denying it this time. She waited until Daniel came home from work. He barely looked at her as he walked in, and Emilia felt the ache in her chest again. This was the man she loved, the man she married, but Margaret's poison had turned him into a stranger. She couldn't let this continue. "Daniel," she said softly. He paused, turning to her. His expression was tired, guarded. "Emilia, please, not tonight. I'm not in the mood for another fight." "This isn't a fight," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I just need you to listen to me for 5 minutes, please. After that, if you still don't believe me, I'll leave." Daniel hesitated. The finality in her voice seemed to startle him. He nodded slowly. 5 minutes. Emilia pulled out her phone and pressed play. Margaret's voice filled the living room. "I can't stand her, Daniel. She's prettier than I ever was, more successful, and she makes me look like a failure. I will never let her be happy in this house." Daniel stiffened. Emilia played the next recording, Margaret's threats in the garden. "If you ever stand against me, I'll make sure Daniel leaves you." And then the call Margaret made to the other woman. "Don't worry. I'll make sure Daniel leaves Emilia. She doesn't belong here. I already have someone better for him." The blood drained from Daniel's face. He reached for the phone with shaking hands and listened to every word again, his eyes wide with disbelief. No, she wouldn't," he whispered. But the truth was right there, echoing through the speakers. Emilia watched the realization sink in. "Daniel, I tried to tell you," she said softly, tears streaming down her face. "I begged you to believe me, but you didn't. She's been trying to destroy our marriage from the start." Daniel ran his hands through his hair, his chest heaving. I don't even know what to say." Emilia swallowed the lump in her throat. "Say nothing. Just decide. Because I can't live like this anymore." Margaret walked in at that exact moment, holding a tray of tea. "What's going on here?" she asked, her tone falsely sweet. Daniel turned on her, his voice shaking with rage. "How could you?" Margaret froze. "What are you talking about?" Emilia stepped forward. "He knows everything, Margaret, every lie, every threat, every cruel thing you've done." Margaret's mask slipped, her face twisted in anger. "So you've been spying on me, you little snake, recording me." Daniel slammed his hand on the table. "Stop! You've been tearing my marriage apart, Mum. Do you even realize what you've done?" Margaret's voice cracked, but there was no remorse. "I did it for you. She was taking you away from me." Daniel stared at her, his heart breaking. "I'm a grown man, Mum. Emilia is my wife. She's supposed to be my family now. But you couldn't accept that, could you? You were so blinded by your jealousy you didn't care who you hurt. Not even me." For the first time, Margaret was speechless. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Daniel turned to Emilia, his voice softer now. "I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have protected you." Emilia nodded, wiping her tears. "We can't stay here anymore, Daniel. I can't live under the same roof with her. It's killing me. Daniel looked at his mother one last time. We're leaving, Mum. I love you, but I can't let you destroy my marriage. Margaret's eyes widened. Daniel, please. But Daniel had already made up his mind. He packed their bags that night, and Emilia followed him out of the house, her heart heavy but relieved. As they drove away, Emilia stared out the window, thinking about everything they had endured. She knew the road ahead would not be easy, but at least they were finally free. Envy is like a slow poison. It starts small, but can consume everything in its path. Families, marriages, even love itself. Margaret's jealousy had almost destroyed Emilia and Daniel, but the truth eventually came to light. How many homes have been torn apart because someone stayed silent for too long? Don't let envy or manipulation ruin the people you love. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. It could save a marriage. It could save a family.